Hey, it's Jen Jones here with,
Courtney Carroll, hi.
and we are here today to talk about lead generation and actually hitting your numbers. So, Courtney, do you know what this is?
I'm not sure.
It's like a special ask a question machine, okay? So,
Okay.
what do I do? Like when I'm a realtor, do I just say to it like, am I gonna make 500,000 next year? And then I just do this. Let's see what it says. Okay. Um, so it says no,
Oh
no, I'm
God.
not. It says actually says no. So is that the way we determine how much money we're going to make, or is there another way that we actually do this?
I mean, that is one way. However, not the way I would recommend. So let's get going with, I have put together some presentation here and we can, oh, sorry, we'll go through some of this math. So
Amazing.
all right. Okay. So this is all about your 2025 math to figure out what your goal is financially and then figure out how you're actually going to do it. If this is in 2026, it still counts. So don't worry. Don't disregard this podcast just because of the date. So just quickly though, so a little bit about me. If you've never listened to us before, I am a licensed agent. I've been one for 14 years, and about 7, 8 years ago, I've switched entirely to an inside sales. Since then, we've converted about $400 million of transactions from online leads and telephone leads. And so that's my intel on dialing.
And how many calls did you make last year?
Over 50,000. I have to figure that number. I think it was 51,060. So just over 50,000 and about the same the year before too. So definitely it's my jam.
Yeah. And I
So
think too, it's
yeah.
worth mentioning just before you go on that
Good.
you have improved like every year your income has gone up year over year,
Yes.
even in these past 3 years of what people would consider to be a more challenged market, right?
Markets for sure, yes.
Yeah.
Which is
And
where those numbers, just went up a lot, improving processes and then just more volume once you start
yeah.
doing math on numbers.
And I love the fact that you've simplified it down to numbers because when you simplify it down to numbers, when we get into a tougher market, all it means is that we just have to increase our numbers in order to increase our production year over year when everyone else is going down, right?
Yes, it
Yeah,
takes all the emotion out of it, which I love.
love it.
So, before we get started, though, I do think everyone has to do a little bit of soul searching. So, you can't do the math until you actually do know your goal. And you could use your little answer magnet to ask it, or maybe a little bit of reverse engineering and figure out what do I actually need to make, and then, what happens if I make a little bit more? What does that do for my life? And so that's where you have a goal and then you have a why. Like what changes? Does your family get to go on vacations? Do you get to retire earlier? Whatever it is, having that is so key for those days where you don't want to get out of bed and knock on doors or pick up a phone and make a calls, if the math isn't enough for you.
And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is your why. You'll hear this a million times. What
Yeah,
is your why? Because if you don't have that big enough goal, just like Courtney said, it can be difficult when you're having a down day to actually
sure.
go out and continue to do the work when you're not seeing the results immediately, right?
Big
People right
time.
now like that immediate gratification, like scrolling TikToks or Instagram stories, right?
For sure. Yeah, no, definitely you want to have that to get started. So once you do have your goal and you figured it out, another important thing, and we will go through this math, is making sure you're front loading the year and you're not dividing it by 12. So while there's still transactions over the holidays and in December, we do know a vast majority are going to happen in the first few months of the year. So you want to do that and then not end up, December 20th still trying to find those extra deals. So front loading it, take some pressures off, and then worst case scenario, you end up with more deals than you had originally planned for. So that would be great. Um, okay. So, measurable activity. This is the big one. And I know we've talked about it before. I'm not against the social media. I'm not against other, events or, farming, things like that. What I love about measurable activity is it's controllable. You can check it off. It's black or white. You either knocked on those doors or you didn't. And so these numbers we've put together after about 8 years of running our team. We have all of this data that we've compiled and put together, and these are worst case scenarios. So we're not trying to sugarcoat it. We've had times in the years where, or years, right, where we've gone a few hundred phone calls would turn into a deal, or you didn't even have to knock on a door. People were there waiting, like, list my house. So
Yeah.
so we were accounting for it, and again, kind of like front loading your year. It's have these kind of worst case scenarios, and then best case it turns into more transactions. So we've talked about this before too, and this is amazing. If for some reason you haven't already gone to our website, it's free. We're not taking your information. It's just gcicalculator.com, and that will allow you to plug in your goals, your splits, the house prices in your area, your average commissions, and it's going to spit out the numbers of phone calls you're going to need to make, door knocks, everything, so you can figure out your plan for the year. So that's just a quick plug for that. Okay, so I'll just brief on these once you've decided. So you've decided, okay, I'm great in person. I love getting fresh air and exercise. I'm going to do door knocking, but like, what am I going to do? So just listed, just sold, or you have buyers who are looking in your neighborhood is a great reason to knock on a door. We've had a lot of success with that in the past.
And
Um, yeah,
also like food bank bags, taking food
yes,
bank bags around, taking spring and fall cleanup bags around with your business card attached, right? There's
100%.
so many creative ways.
For
There's actually a
sure.
realtor up in our area who got started as a new realtor by becoming known for dropping a particular, it would change, but a
Yeah.
particular vegetable down an entire street, right? So it'd be
Oh,
like
stop.
all carrots on one street,
So
or then it
good.
might be all potatoes down another street. And so this became a thing where people started to like post and, it got a lot of traction. He became a well-known agent. He obviously doesn't do the vegetables anymore, but I'm sure there's people that wish he would.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, that's hilarious. And what that's a really great thing for that geographical farming is like pick a neighborhood that you want to focus on, and then yeah, that's a great idea. I've had like, plants in the spring, spring is sprung, like any of those things, and then just keep it strategic. Plan it out for the year. What am I going to do this quarter or month for certain areas, and then do that. So yeah, those
and
are
then
awesome.
if they're farming an area,
Yeah.
do you know how many homes it is that they want to be farming in that particular pocket?
No, I just know that
Hmm.
like the 200 knocks usually for a deal, but
Yeah.
farming's such a hard one. It's like a branding, right?
So usually they'll say like 1,000 homes on average, right?
Okay, that
So
like you
usually
should
a
focus on.
thousand, yeah, but you have to make sure that there's actually activity in the neighborhood.
Right,
And you
right.
can do that even, if you're now on the board, you're registered, you can get marketing information. You could put that, actually load it up into ChatGPT 4.0, right? And
Yeah.
you would be able to determine, have ChatGPT basically scrape that data and then let you know which area would be the right area for you to farm
Oh,
based
wow.
on the activity or the ages of the population, all of those things. It's pretty cool.
That is super cool. Yeah, and you want to make sure you're right, you're focusing on an area that does have some turnover. While, beautiful big luxury homes would be great, they don't have tend as much, turnover as you'd see in the townhouse communities or things like
Yes.
that. So,
And they also, I think, looking at the way the market goes, when we even looking at the past 3 years, when the market goes down and we had those interest rate increases of 14, right? With the luxury market just doesn't move the same way. That's the market that will really slow.
Sure, yeah.
So you want to always have a balance in your portfolio of what you're actually selling. So
Right.
I always talk about the bread and butter, right? Making sure that you have enough bread and butter, and that can be leases, right? What do we say
Yeah.
about leases,
We love
Courtney?
leases. We love leases.
Right?
Yeah.
Why? Why do you love leases when there's so
That's
many agents that don't want to do them?
that's a whole other
Mm,
topic. Other than, I mean, if you do a great job with leases, when they're ready to buy, they're going to use you. They'll refer you to your friends and family. The landlord's going to see how great you handle it, and they likely have other investment properties. We'll do a whole thing about how great
yeah.
leases are when worked properly.
Agreed. And I think we should probably have on Clover Properties Rent to Own
Oh
and
yeah,
we
another
should have
amazing
them on our
program.
podcast and bring them in and talk about that because we have had a lot of deals simply by, asking the right questions of the tenant and
Yeah,
discovering that even though they had a bankruptcy in the past or they're self-employed, that with 30,000 they can basically get back into home ownership.
which is what
So,
you want to do, and people, yeah,
yes,
help them get into
ultimately
the
that's
market
what we hope for everyone, right?
for sure. So we've covered those great ways for door knocking. Telephone, that's my favorite. So tapping in, there's the telelisting service is available with a lot of brokerages, or you can pay it. So calling around, same thing, just listed, just sold. You can also be phoning around if you've hosted past events, either yourself or a team that could be compiled from open houses or any events that you've been doing in the community. Maybe speak with your brokers, see if they have a database that you could touch for a referral. Or online leads, either like a larger system, you can do through KV Core, any of those programs that you buy in small batches, Facebook Marketplace, any of those, just compiling a list and making phone calls for them. And again, we can kind of go through those another time. And telephone, what's great, it's the second most effective. Your sphere, which we'll talk about, is always going to be the best. But time and efficiency, phone calls they're still great.
I think it's neat too, the fact that even though you don't go out on appointments, like you don't work with a buyer or seller directly,
Yeah.
you have, made a tremendous amount of money comparatively to other agents. You're like right at the top of even our team based on your earnings, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's without going out on a single appointment.
Right.
So,
Just on a
so
referral.
yeah, so can you just quickly touch on like what are the things that you could do while you're dialing and actually
Ah,
doing business through these
yeah.
referrals?
That's my favorite. I'm not entirely crazy that I love just chatting on the phone with people. I love the freedom for like walking, hiking the dog, doing the laundry. When you're calling strangers, your script will always be the same. So there's no need for any like research or knowing anything ahead of time. In fact, you really don't want to know anything so that you're a good listener who's asking a lot of questions. And so tying yourself up to avoid that, like trying to fact find, it frees up. You have a headset on and the dial running, and it allows you. It just buys me so many hours of personal life back. So when the kids get home, I'm not like then starting to prep dinner or clean or do any of that stuff. So I did that
What
well.
I always laugh at the story you tell with, the girls if they want,
Yeah.
Starbucks or something. So tell that story.
Yeah, so when you do this calculator and you figure out all these things, in order to the math I ran on it, I make about, well, this year was a harder year. I don't want to talk negative, but it works out to about $4 every phone call that I made. And so they'll want, those over expensive $8 drink from Starbucks, like a vanilla milkshake, but no caffeine or anything. And I'll be like, no, like that's so expensive and you're eight. And they'll be like, oh, just make a few phone calls. So then I will, though, like multiple times we have pulled into the Starbucks plaza and I'll load up like 10 phone numbers and maybe no one answers, or maybe someone answers, and it's like they'll sit there with me while we make those phone calls and then proceed to hit the drive-through in order to spend the
It's
money that
such
I know I made because I have those numbers from the last 8 years of full-time dialing.
It's
That,
amazing
yeah.
though, Courtney. Like what a great parent you are. You're helping them correlate, like make those connections between money, like the cost of living,
Right,
essentially, right? With work, like real
right.
life. That's amazing. You're such an incredible parent. I tell you that all the time, but it's true.
You do. I think maybe they're just too spoiled to even ask for a Starbucks
Not
vanilla
even
bean
close.
frappuccino. But um, so the next one, open houses. These are great. They're so great to get you out, talking with people, having real estate conversations, especially if you are a warm and fuzzy person. These are awesome. Jen, you built an entire business to start off with doing these open houses. We can do a whole thing about them also. To get you started, though, if you're a brand new agent, it doesn't need to be your listing. I think that's what discourages them. Find someone on your team or within your brokerage or even outside your brokerage if there's an area that you want. Give them a call. Guess what? A lot of agents don't want to host it, and they'll love to be able to tell their sellers that they've coordinated to have this open house, and it's a great way for you to meet new people. So don't
Like,
don't let
there's a
that get
great there's a great story. Michael McKinley, remember we had him on doing some open house training.
Oh yeah, in
Well,
Florida, right?
Michael McKinley is the agent that actually we purchased our Florida property with in Cape Coral. And we tell the story. We went into a bunch of different open houses, meeting different agents. He actually happened to be an EXP agent. There were other EXP agents, um,
Mhm.
but just incredible skills and connection with people, like just amazing. Um, and he tells the story of moving from Indiana during COVID with his family, so his wife and their two kids,
Yeah.
and they moved down. And at first, he went to Naples as a realtor, and he's like, he called around through all the realtors and asked if he could help them sell their listing by promoting their listing with him in as an open house to his buyers, right? So these were all different brokerages. Only one in Naples said yes. But in Cape Coral, the area we were, almost everyone had said
Right.
yes, all different brokerages. So
Perfect.
he gets in, starts running these open houses. He's picking up buyers left, right, and center. And he closed out his first year with over 300,000 gross commission.
Wow.
And that's
Wow.
US funds in a new
U.S.
city,
funds.
new location. So
Yeah.
we'll run an open house script, something sort of a combination of what Michael does and myself, because I feel like that also is a really high level of conversion for those open houses they're going to do.
Oh,
But yeah,
100%.
super
Yeah.
fun.
That is a great way. So get the listings. Don't worry about whose it is, and then advertising it, call around it, door knock around it, and then the big thing, you get everyone to give you that information. Make sure you're actually following up with them. Don't just do that information and do nothing with it. So call them, follow up, send an email. We have an agent who will send an actual handwritten letter if they've included their address, thanking them for showing up. So just make sure you're really working that. And then your sphere, I mean, I just keep saying it. We can go on for these forever. But calling, meeting, texting, and then making sure you're giving something to them before you're asking for things in return.
Law of
Um,
reciprocity,
yeah,
everyone, law of reciprocity, give before you receive.
Yeah, so don't just reach out after never talking to them in 9 years and be like, "Hey, do you have anyone who wants to buy from me?" Make sure you are doing that first, and then though make sure you do ask because people don't necessarily think of it. It doesn't mean they don't want to help you. It just means it hasn't occurred to them to refer you. And the sphere is always going to be the most effective. That is your best opportunities
Yeah.
there.
And we can
Um,
do further in-depth trainings on sphere
yeah,
as
we
well
could
in
do
terms
tons on
of,
that. Yeah.
yeah, like the top 50, those are the people, the top 50 people that would refer you without, needing to do business with you just because they like and trust you. So,
Right.
how are you having conversations and managing those relationships with people and understanding you first have to figure out how to help them get what they want
For
in order to
sure.
get what you want, which is Zig Ziglar, right?
Yes. Yeah. And like treat real it's a career. Like it's not just this year, it's the next 10 or 20 or 40 or 50 years. And so it's like that big picture. So that's super important. And yeah, we'll go through all that. So I mean, this one was just kind of those basics. Figure out what your goal is, do the math. You can go to that gcicalculator.com and then make your plan and then just do it. Like actually do
Execute.
it. Yeah, that's it.
Just
That's
do
it.
it. The
Yeah,
Nike, just do it.
easy
Yeah, and I
peasy.
think that's the biggest thing is people get caught up with the fear, right, of
Hmm.
doing these things. So you can partner up with someone else, go with another agent. We have our own agents on the team that specialize in door knocking or they
Hmm.
specialize in open houses or calling like Courtney. So different agents will sort of gravitate to different things and you want to, if you have that fear, you want to get out there and do it a couple times with someone that's comfortable. And then you
Yeah,
realize, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought. And this is
for
something I can
sure.
actually do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then understand doing anything new always creates fear and
Yeah,
stress, right?
for sure.
But like a diamond, right? A diamond doesn't become a diamond until it's been put under pressure, right?
Right.
And we don't get growth through going through amazing periods of time where everything is just lovely and fluffy. We go through and get the growth when we have to go through things that are tough.
Right.
So if you want an average life, then do average things. If you want an extraordinary life and you want to show your kids how to live an extraordinary life, you need to lead by example. And that
Yeah.
means doing things that are beyond and above what is average. It's like excellence in all things that you do. So you're going to show up at a high level for everything,
Yes.
right? Yeah. And
Everyone
and you're
needs
the
a
perfect
friend.
example of that.
So everyone needs a friend like Jen who doesn't allow you to get comfortable for really any amount of time. So, and that's the important of
Yes,
an
Lauren.
accountability partner. Like you said
Yeah,
though, right? Getting someone who will actually hold you accountable and meet you in a hard spot and do hard things together. Super important.
yeah. It's so
Yep.
exciting. And I always talk about your girls. Courtney has two beautiful daughters who are just amazing. Her husband's a great father to those girls as well. I just feel like Courtney is, she has brought those girls up to be fearless, to believe that what they believe and think about the world, what they speak over their life is actually what they're creating, right?
Yes.
And it is. So they're just mind blowing in what they can achieve. And I tell the story of Cameron. So how old was Cameron? That would be like two
Like
years ago.
six, yeah, like
Yeah.
5 or 6, yeah.
So five, she probably was five. And we have the charity car wash we do every year, which is great, by the way. We raise money for the food bank and animal shelters, things that are close to our heart. And Courtney's daughters, they're out there. They're like holding signs at the road, bringing people in. Our own agents, adult agents, they're terrified of doing this. And these two girls are out there doing it no problem.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Cameron has the donation bucket, right? And a car pulls in and they have their window up and she walks over, she's at the window and she's just this short little blonde thing and she's knocking on the window and whoever is in the car is just looking at her. And so she goes like this, like
Yeah, she's
roll
not
the
gonna
window
know.
down.
She
Yeah,
would,
roll the window down, please. And then she asks for the donation and
yeah.
holds the bin out before he gets his car washed. It was like it was so brilliant, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They are fearless. If we could have more girls like that in the world, more kids in all over in
Yeah.
general, boys and
In
girls,
general.
that could be that way and not be afraid to be themselves and truly be authentically unique, like
Yeah.
what a place the world would be, right? So, yeah.
It's fun.
So Courtney's parenting
Yeah.
classes
Yeah. I could do a
will be
parenting
something we work on later after we work on the other businesses,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. It's
one thing at a
amazing.
time.
Exactly. So thanks for coming today, guys. We're going to be working on very specific things as we go along, doing shorter
Hmm.
segments to help you get amped up and get going. And then we'll
Yeah,
be interviewing people that we know are the experts in those areas that are going to help you in a simple way just get going. So
so
you
good.
can do it.
Woo!